up to New Bremen, Ohio to visit the Bicycle Museum of America. Let's go take a trip inside. All right, we are lucky to have Ryan Long of the Bicycle Museum of America, and he's going to talk to us about what the Bicycle Museum is all about and kind of how you can get up there to see it. So welcome, Ryan Long, to Virtual Bike Month.
Okay, thanks for having me. Like I said, my name's Ryan Long. I'm the museum coordinator here at the museum. I've been with the museum for about 2 years now.
And kind of tell us about the beginnings of the museum and how it came to be and what you have going on today.
So the museum actually started in Chicago on the North Pier. It was owned by the Schwinn Company. It was their private collection, their private museum. When the company went bankrupt in 1997, a local collector bought it and brought it here to New Bremen. And it's only grown since then through auctions and donations and that sort of thing. Tell us
about like the different stages of the museum you walk through and the different collections. So what's the oldest bike and what are some of the newer bikes and what are the collections in between?
Sure. So we start off, we call it the Evolution Room. We start with the 1816 Draisine. It's over 200 years old. It's still about 75% original. You walk through this first room. It goes from the Draisine, the Velocipede, to the high wheel. Everybody knows
what years are those bikes from?
Sure. So the Draisine, the Velocipede really started in 1816, and then bicycles kind of petered off for a little while until folks started to put pedals on them, and the high wheel really started in 1870, right around that era. They lasted for about 15 years or so. They were very popular with the rich. And then the safety bicycle came around in about 1884 is when we start seeing a design that's close to what we're using now. It wasn't quite the diamond frame, but it was close. 2 equal wheels low to the ground. They called it the safety because the high wheel was incredibly dangerous. So the safety was aptly named.
And so, yeah, what are the next stages that you show in the collection then after those early years?
So we go from the early stages of the safety, and we really transition into the 1890s, which you see a lot of innovation during that time. People were really trying to outdo one another. There were thousands of bicycle manufacturers at the time, so there was stiff competition. And then from there, it really just it goes to the more modern look. We have 3 floors. The second floor has some professional cycling history. So the early stages of professional cycling on high wheels to modern day racing bikes that we know today. We have a collection of Robin Williams personal bikes on the second floor. And we also have a authentic Pee Wee Herman bicycle on the second floor. Everybody loves the Pee Wee bike. And then as you go up into the third floor, there's some military bicycles, military history with bicycles. And then the last room of the museum is a giant ballroom, which houses a lot of Schwinns and Huffies and some bikes in the 2000s. We have a full collection of Schwinn crate bikes. Everybody loves the Stingrays from the Schwinn, and yeah, we pepper in a lot of history throughout there.
How many total bikes are there, and what's the most treasured bike in the collection?
Well, there's about 800 in the entire display, or in the entire collection. A little under 800, 130 on display. And honestly, the most treasured is probably the Draisine, the 1816 Draisine. Like I said, it's still about 75% original, which a bike that's over 200 years old, made of wood is pretty impressive to survive that long.
Yeah, I was impressed by the wooden bikes and just some of the craftsmanship that went into
Yeah,
some of those older bikes,
sure.
for sure. But yeah, the military bikes were certainly interesting to me, and there was just, it was so well done. There's a nice display at every turn, and so it was really impressive to see that for myself. I had heard about the Bicycle Museum of America, but never been myself, so I was happy to get up there. And how can people visit the museum? Where is it located? What are the hours? And those sorts of details.
About 10 minutes off of I-75. Um, our hours are noon to 5 Monday through Friday, and 10 to 2 on Saturday. Admission cost is $3 for adults, $2 for seniors, $1 for students, and anybody under 5 is free.
And you're up in New Bremen, which is what, roughly about an hour north of Dayton. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Yep. So, what what do you have upcoming? What's the next new thing happening at the museum?
Well, I don't know when you were up here, but just the end of last week, I just put up a new display in the foyer. It's a collection of 4 Schwinn's that weren't normally on display. There's a manta ray, which was the largest model of the Stingray bicycles. And then there's a Green Panther. There's a cycle truck. And then we have a 1937 Schwinn Paramount, which is interesting because the Paramount wasn't out until 38. So what we have on display is a prototype.
There was some interesting kind of pieces related to Neil Armstrong. Can you talk about some of the non-bicycle stuff that you have that's a little more just local to your area?
Sure. So just north of here is Wapakoneta, which is where Neil Armstrong was born. So Neil kind of has this deep roots in this area. So we have a collection of Neil Armstrong memorabilia. We have a spacesuit. We have a bomber jacket. Also in the museum is some New Bremen history. There's a large New Bremen Civil War flag that someone found in a barn and kind of had it restored. And then there's some odds and ends. There's some precious gems that we have, and some military challenge coins.
And one of the interesting things out of the whole collection of the Neil Armstrong stuff was a handwritten drawing that he was describing how the Apollo mission was going to work and how the modules kind of disconnected, and it was a handwritten drawing to his dad, right?
Yeah.
Certainly interesting stuff there that's not necessarily bike related, but super fun and cool to see.
Yeah, it's mostly bicycle related here, but we have a lot of odds and ends that are also interesting.
Yeah, and what year did you say the museum opened there in New Bremen?
1997.
1997. So it really hadn't been there that long, but it's
not really. It's still relatively new, and we're still growing too.
So how many visitors are there in a year, and where do they come from?
Over the course of a year, I would say there's roughly about 7,000 guests throughout the course of a year, sans COVID, of course. But we get people from all over the world. We've had folks from New Zealand, from Australia, from Germany, from the Netherlands. Folks that really they've heard about the collection and they want to come see some of the more unique, one-of-a-kind items that we have here. Bicycle enthusiasts, of course.
Yeah, so it's called the Bicycle Museum of America, but are there other collections out there in the country and in the world that kind of are competing for the title of the best collection in the United States? And how do you view your collection?
I would say that the other bicycle museum that I can think of is Bicycle Heaven. That's in Pittsburgh. He has a much larger collection than we have, but it's also a very interesting museum. But I see our museum as a very in-depth look at the history of the bicycle, which is really what we're striving for here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes with us, Ryan, and being part of our virtual Bike Month field trip.
Sure. Hope to see you soon.